could have 3 losses by now.
I don't know about that.
They are not that
For
good.
Florida State in there, I would say yes to that, what you just said.
Punt return by Caleb Downs. And he finds a seam. He makes the punter look silly. Caleb Downs, show him what you got. Touchdown, Bama.
5-minute drive now for UTEP. And they will keep it on the ground. Awad just gets pile-driven by Stutzman.
Really haven't even tried from the shotgun. That throw's intercepted. Pierce down the sideline. Touchdown.
Claiborne, the sophomore, has 1 score so far this season. Rivers will buy a little bit of time. Falling down, lost the football. Play is still live. And recovered by the Monarchs. Lamarian James will take it the other way for the ODU touchdown.
Welcome back to Devy IDP Grind. He is Justice. I am Hollywood Titan, and we are joined by Ryan Roberts of A to Z Sports. We're going to talk a little Notre Dame defense. Ryan is a NFL draft and college football analyst for A to Z Sports, a scout for the College Gridiron Showcase All-Star Game. You can find him on X at Rise and Draft. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
I appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to do this with us.
Yeah, we're excited to learn a little bit more about some Notre Dame defense. But before we get to that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what got you into the Fighting Irish and Notre Dame and scouting, podcasting, radio, all that good stuff?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So for like the Notre Dame side, I've been a fan my entire life. I always tell people that like I had a choice of what NFL team I wanted to root for, whether it was my mom was a Rams fan, my dad is a Dolphins fan. So like I had the choice of where I wanted to go from an NFL route perspective, but I don't remember a day where I wasn't a Notre Dame fan, to be honest with you. Right. Like it's been just, it's kind of like that bond between a father and a son, I guess, like that really cliche story, but like that's what it's always been. So I had the opportunity to work in the recruiting side of, covering Notre Dame for several years over at Irish Breakdown. From just kind of the pure content perspective, NFL draft wise, I've been a little bit everywhere. I mean, I kind of had like the, I guess, more traditional route now of like just freelancing your butt off early in your career, just kind of waiting for opportunities to show up. And, luckily one thing's led to another. You mentioned I do some scouting for College Gridiron Showcase. I've been lucky to have met a lot of great people in the scouting industry, both on the content side and in the NFL scouting game, former scouts, current scouts in the NFL, CFL, all over the place. So now I'm at A to Z Sports, where I do the A to Z Sports Film Room, where we break down NFL draft prospects, NFL players, college breakouts, high school recruits, a little bit of everything. And on the written content side, I do NFL draft, college football, and obviously a heavy focus on Notre Dame with my roots.
Before we get to Notre Dame, I got a quick scout question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep, go for it.
Have you ever watched a guy and like I had a situation, I don't know, I guess 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, where I watched this kid. I watched 6 of his high school games. I watched the high school All-Star game. I watched the college spring game, and I was just like, man, I just don't see it. Like how this kid is the number 1 player at his position coming out of high school. Like I don't see it at all. Like I think I said his best move was shrugging his shoulders and throwing his hands up in the air, and he's proved me wrong. And I'm just like, what was there that I just like totally overlooked? Like I guess I just couldn't get over the fact over his body language in games, and maybe that's what, like, I don't know, messed up my ability to see the talent.
I always tell people, Justice, that like evaluating high school players is so much harder than NFL draft prospects. Like it's so much because there's not as much that's readily available to you, right? Like it's very easy to get college all 22 film at this point, right? And then if you're a data centric guy, like there's a lot of different data thresholds and data systems and everything out there that can kind of help you fill in some gaps from a threshold perspective and all that type of stuff. If you're if you're a purist, obviously film is going to kill all light. And that's kind of how I operate, right? Like I subscribe to some threshold stuff, some data stuff. For the most part, I am a eye in the sky guy. And like I always have been. So from an NFL draft perspective, a lot more information is readily available to you. For high school, there's so many different factors, right? It's like some kids are late risers. Some kids are early risers. Some kids play on a very low level of football and they just beat the hell out of dudes, right? Then there's some guys that are playing against, like, you're playing at St. John Bosco and you're playing Matre Dame 1 week, Servite the next, and you're playing a national schedule. And it's just like, it's hard, right? Like it's very hard. So it's a little bit of a guessing game. And then also you have to remember, like, you're dealing with 17-year-olds, right? Like 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and like they're a very volatile bunch. I mean, the day before a game, their girlfriend may have broke up with them and it wrecked them for like 3 weeks in comparison to what a college guy might have to go through. So there's just so many different factors. And I also think there's a little bit too much information out there. Like in the NFL draft space, there's a million websites, but like in the high school recruiting base, like I work through it all the time. It's like you have 247, you have On3, you have Rivals, you have ESPN. Now On3 is taking over Rivals, so I'm sure that their system is going to be a little bit bastardized. But like, there's so much volatility in the industry. I mean, one kid could be a top 50 recruit for someone and then be a 3-star for another. It's just so much information out there, but I don't think it's all good information. Like watching a huddle highlight tape is not actually scouting, right? Like finding full game film is great, but like most of that is broadcast film. So you also can't even evaluate offensive linemen the best possible that you want to. So that's the kind of the long, I actually have, I mean, it's a semi rant because I actually find it so frustrating to evaluate high school prospects sometimes. Cause it's like, and people get mad because they're like, oh man, how did you not think this guy was going to be really good? And it's like, guys, like I can only work with what's available to me. And also I also am going to miss occasionally, right? Like it's a tough industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
You're going to, like everyone's going to miss. You have your hits and misses. I was just, like I was just so looking back. I was just trying to figure out like what was there that I just couldn't see.
Well, and it's the other way too sometimes, right? Because I remember a good example is from my former boss at Irish Breakdown. Before I was in the recruiting game, I was in the NFL draft space full time, like I am now, and he messaged me a huddle highlight tape of Zach Rice, who was at North Carolina, was the 5-star, and now I think he's in the portal, or if he not landed somewhere else, I don't even know where he landed. But I remember watching that kid, and I'm like, how do people think that kid's a 5-star? Like I don't get it, right? And I've made mistakes the other way too, where I'm like, I don't think that guy's that good, and then he ends up being really good. But like that was a situation where I'm just like, everybody and their mother's telling me that he's a 5-star, and then lo and behold, like 3 or 4 years later, it's like he barely played a game at North Carolina. You know what I mean? So like it goes both ways. It does. Just, man, there's so much information out there, but I don't think all of it's good information. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right. The rankings is, I think people get caught up in those too much. Like when you see 5-star, they automatically think it's good. Like Corey Foreman from a few years ago, I watched the tape and I was like, this dude looks like he's going to be legit. And he's transferred from USC to Fresno State. It still hasn't really panned out for him. And I'm like, man, I'm like, Justice, I'm like, where did I go wrong, or what did I see? But at the same time, me and him both, we love Caleb Downs, right? When he played at Mill Creek, I mean, he was playing all 3 phases, a superstar. And I was like, that's an NFL player, right? In high school. Yes. And I'm like, that dude right there is going to go a long way. And like, so far, it's
even the negatives with Caleb, like you could understand it because he was on the field all the time, right? Like
exactly,
there was an explanation for it.
And I think you're trying to find as much, like for me, the evaluation process is I want to check as many boxes as I can on a player. Like that's, I think, is the best practice. Like you have your threshold stuff like height, weight, speed, obviously, right? Like all those variables. You have good production on the film. You like the film, obviously. But then it's like with Caleb Downs, he was such an easy guy at Mill Creek because it's like he is incredibly productive at a high level of high school football in the state of Georgia. It's like, okay, check, check, check. He has requisite size and athleticism. Check, check, check. And also, his brother plays in the NFL, and his dad was a former college football player and now college coach, right? It's like, okay, that guy's probably going to work out. You know what I mean? Like, you check so many boxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Like the only negative was he would take plays off, but you could understand that because he's on the field the whole entire game.
Exactly. Yeah, playing running back, playing all special teams, like doing everything that they needed him to. Exactly.
Yeah, he did great. For those that's not familiar with Notre Dame, how would you describe their defensive style or scheme?
That's a little bit of a wait and see process right now, I would say. Like I mean, look, here's the things I know. They're mostly still going to be a 4-2-5 team. They are going to be an aggressive blitz centric team. And I know those two things because that's what Marcus Freeman believes in as a head coach, right? And he is in his position because he was a great defensive mind and he was one of the best defensive coordinators in college football. So what they tangibly do on the field is going to be a part of his philosophy always. Now, the only questions I have are just from a not philosophical perspective, but from a wrinkle perspective and some tendency stuff. You are going from Al Golden as a defensive coordinator, who's now with the Cincinnati Bengals, to Chris Ash. And Chris Ash is a little bit more of a he wants to get home with four. He doesn't want to blitz as much. He's going to mix and match man and zone coverage a lot. So like Al Golden, he wanted to blitz as often as possible and he wanted to play man coverage. And it worked for Notre Dame because Notre Dame had a really good secondary the last 2 years. So you're like, okay, that can work. Ash, I expect them to be a 4-2-5 team, heavy nickel, 4-2-5 base though, and I expect them to try to get home with four a lot more than they did last year, and I expect them to mix zone and man coverage because ultimately, while it worked mostly for Al Golden the last 2 years, we did see obviously in like the Ohio State national championship game, you can't play man all the time against some of these great wide receivers. Like you have to mix and match a little bit more. And
Right.
unfortunately, Notre Dame tried to mix and match, but they didn't play enough zone during the year. And all of a sudden they're like, we're not that great at zone coverage. Like we haven't done it enough, right? To be a practically good team at this nuance of the game. So a 4-2-5, expect them to be pretty aggressive, but not quite as aggressive as what I think we saw with Coach Golden.
With that fifth defensive back, do you think that's more of a hybrid, safety linebacker, or more of a hybrid slot safety cornerback guy?
Yep, that's a great question. So the obviously the player that people think about most in like this 4-2-5 rover position is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for what he was at Notre Dame as like that overhang player. On base downs, that's still what it's going to be at its heart and soul. Like it's still going to be a linebacker body type, a guy that can condense down and play in the box. Like you're going to see Jaden Osbury play there a lot this year. You'll see Jalen Sneed at some points as well. You might even see a big safety at times. Like I wouldn't be shocked if like a Luke Talich, for instance, like comes down and plays a little bit of rover, maybe some like big nickel situations. But that's what it's going to be on base. But I do expect Notre Dame, as is every team in the NFL and college football now, like they're going to be a nickel a lot, right? So that's why they got Devonta Smith out of from Alabama this offseason to come and play nickel. So it's going to be a 4-2-5 linebacker rover, but on sub downs, on nickel downs, I expect that Devonta Smith to play a lot in the nickel.
So the Irish lost their top two leading tacklers last year in linebacker Jack Kaiser and safety Xavier Watts, who both went to the NFL. Who do you see filling their roles this season?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for Jack playing the will linebacker position, first and foremost, it's good for Notre Dame to have their Mike back. So Drake Bowen's back, and he had, I think, like 78 total tackles last year. He was the third leading tackler on the team. But they will have, I think it's going to be a mix and match a little bit. Like, I think you're going to see some Kingston Viliamoasa, who's a sophomore who played a lot in year one out of St. John Bosco. I think you're going to see some Jaden Osbury that I mentioned a little bit, kind of being a mix and match guy. And then I also think that you're going to see some Jalen Sneed, who Jalen Sneed's now up to like 236 pounds. So, like, he's gained a lot of weight to kind of play more inside. So, I think you're going to be a little bit of a rotation inside. I mean, Notre Dame played five linebackers a lot last year. Like, I mean, Jack Kaiser ended up having 90 total tackles last year for Notre Dame, but like Drake played a lot, Jaden Osbury played a lot, Jalen Sneed played a lot, Kingston played a lot. Like all these guys played a lot. I think it's going to be a lighter rotation compared to the last year without Jack there, but I do think that will linebacker spot is going to be a mix of Kingston Viliamoasa, Jaden Osbury, and Jalen Sneed. And at safety, that's a more difficult question for me to answer because there is a very deep competition that it happened during the spring, and I think it's going to continue. We know that Adon Schuler is going to be one of the starting safeties, probably more to the boundary. But for that field position, Xavier Watts had 13 interceptions the last 2 years, so he was tremendous for Notre Dame. You're going to see a much bigger body type in that spot. It's either going to be, and I'm going to list off a few guys because like this is a competition, guys. Like it's a big competition. So Jalen Stroman is a grad transfer from Virginia Tech who did not play in the spring. He's recovering from an injury, but he's a very experienced player. But then they have a couple younger guys that are kind of fighting for that spot too. You're going to see Luke Talich, who's going to be a junior, who's played a lot of special team. He's like a 6'4" white safety that can run. Like it is very rare breed. Like you don't see too many of these guys. But then Jadon Blair, who is a true freshman who was tremendous in the spring, a tremendous player out of the state of North Carolina, Mount Tabor. He is a legit 6'5", like legit, not a,
Ooh,
they listed him at roster at 6'5", but he's actually 6'3". Like I met him in person, and he is 6'5". I verify that this kid is humongous. And then you have Bronte Johnson, who's going to be a redshirt freshman, sophomore from the school perspective, who's the small guy, and he's 6'2", 190 something pounds, right? So Notre Dame is going to be very inexperienced next to Adon Schuler, but they're going to be more explosive. Like they're going to be rangier. There's probably going to be a lot more mistakes than what Xavier Watts made, but I also think there's going to be a couple more flash plays because they have a lot of size in that position. They have a lot of explosiveness and they have a lot of range, but they're just inexperienced players at this point outside of Stroman.
Well, moving over to the defensive line, they lose two big pieces on the interior, and Riley Mills and Howard Cross III. How does the Irish go about replacing their production?
Well, it's not going to be a 1-to-1 replacement. They are not going to have the big names like Howard Cross made an All-American the last 2 years ago. Last year, Riley Mills made an All-American list. So like they've had some very good players on the interior. So, and they're not going to replace that 1-on-1. Like I would be surprised if there was a Notre Dame interior defensive lineman that was an All-American in 2025, but it's actually going to be a deeper group overall. I mean, cause they have, I used to say this about Georgia in like 2021 and 2022. Yes, it was great that they had Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Jalen Carter. But the crazy part was when they took those guys off the field, you still had to deal with Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse, right? You're just like, they just throw waves at you, man. And it's debilitating as an offensive lineman. I'm like, finally get a break, right? Like big number, what was Devontae Wyatt? 95 or whatever. Like he's finally off the field. Cool. I get a little bit of a break. And then all of a sudden, like, Jalen Carter mixes in or Nazir Stackhouse mixes in, and you're just like, dang, dude, like this is just not fun. Like this is not a fun time. I think Notre Dame is going to be more like that. Not quite to that level, obviously, because I just named a bunch of NFLers, but they're going to play Gabriel Rubio a ton. Jared Dawson transfer from Louisville. I think he's going to mix and match at nose and 3 technique. You're going to see Donovan Heinisch, who actually was second on the team in sacks last year from the interior. So you're going to see him a lot. You're also going to see, I think you could see some Armel Mukum, who's going to be a rising junior, a redshirt sophomore. I think he's going to play a lot. Like there's a lot of names. None of them are necessarily like stalwart, like guys that every national person is going to know. But I do think that you're going to look back at like 2025 in just kind of a full scope perspective and be like, Notre Dame might not have as many stars on the interior for the defensive line, but they were probably a lot deeper than they have been in several years. I'll give context here. So Notre Dame fans, one of their biggest complaints. One of their biggest complaints over the last couple of years was Notre Dame doesn't have enough size on the interior. That's what you hear all the time. And I agree. Like they need to recruit bigger. Like there's no doubt about it on the interior. But now flash forward to this year with Dawson, with Rubio. I forgot to mention Jason Onye, who missed the second half of the year with his away from the team. All those guys together, the 2 deep, actually you can go 3 deep on them, and they average 306 pounds now on their 3 deep between the 2 positions. Like that is a much different Notre Dame team than I've ever seen. Like I've always been used to like the undersized team, right? It's like they've had Howard Cross, who's 280 something pounds. One of the best of my lifetime is Shelton Day, who was a really good player in the earlier 2000s. You talk about Derek Landry. Like they've had a bunch of good interior defense linemen, but they're all the same guy. They're all 285, 290 pounds. And they don't anchor at the point of attack well enough. And I do think that they will be a more physical and bigger just overall interior defensive line in 2025.
While there might not be an All-American in 2025, is there one guy you think's kind of on the interior, kind of ready to take that next jump, if you will?
Yeah, I think the most physically talented in 2025, I think there's a couple of younger guys that might have more upside just overall, but like for 2025, I think Jason Onye is going to surprise a lot. He's number 47. Before he left the team last year, because people forget, like early on in the season, Howard Cross and Riley Mills got kind of off to a slow start last year in the beginning of the year. Like they weren't incredibly productive. And then about halfway through the year, like a switch kind of went off in Riley Mills' head and he became a really good player for Notre Dame. But early in the year, I would argue the first like 3 or 4 games, the best interior defensive lineman from a snap to snap basis, like per snap, was probably Jason Onye. Like he's a very physically gifted player. He's had to continue to develop physically just over the last few years. He came in at like a 260-pound defensive end. Now he is a 6'5", 300 and like I think he was like 309 on the last update. So like he's gained a lot of weight, a lot of mass, really talented interior rusher. I think if he's able to stay healthy and stay on the field and be the best version of himself, he could end up being the best player on that interior defensive line in 2025. I don't think like if he hits his upside, I think it's not even close. Like Gabriel Rubio, I think brings a good floor. He's a big physical guy, 319 pounds. Jared Dawson's played a lot of football for Louisville. Donovan Heinisch is a good interior penetrator. But if all those guys hit their upside in 2025, I think Jason Onye has the most physical talent of all those guys.
Nice. So staying with the defensive line, but we're going to move to the edges or defensive ends here. The Irish, y'all are returning a lot of talent. What is the outlook for this group in 2025?
If they are healthy, which is a big caveat because two of their better players are coming back from injury, Boubacar Traore, if he didn't get hurt last year,
yes,
may have been one of the best edge rushers in college football. Like he was on pace for have about 16 tackles for loss, 10 sacks last year before he got hurt against Louisville. Like he was balling, man. Like he's a 6'4", 240 plus pound, just 80 plus inch wingspan, really explosive first step. Like he's that type of dude. Like he's an NFL player if he's healthy. Like there's no doubt in my mind about that. And I think he could be probably a top 100 player potentially when he comes out in the draft, whether it's 2026 or 2027. But he's coming back from the injury, got hurt against Louisville. He's supposed to be back this summer, so they're hopeful for that. You also had Jordan Botelho, who's kind of the old man in the room, but he was playing good football before he got injured as well. If both of them are healthy and they are what they were before the injury this past year, I think Notre Dame has one of the deepest defensive end rooms in all of college football, man. Like it's a lot of talent because again, they can throw waves. Like Boubacar Traore, I think could be a college football star. Jordan Botelho could be a really good rotational player between right and left end. Like he can play either side and he can play it well. Then you have guys that are good, solid rotational players. Like you have Joshua Burnham, you have Junior Tuihalamaka, who's a really talented player. And then you have the next guy in Bryce Young, who's going to be a true sophomore this year, who is 6'7", 265 pounds, and the son of Bryant Young, right? Like he could be a superstar. And then not to mention you have Logan Thomas, who, although undersized, is an incredibly athletic kid. I mean, he had a sack against Indiana, like lightning first step. So there's about 6 guys that, if healthy, I feel good about playing defensive end for Notre Dame in 2025. And that's a rare thing, man. Like there's some years where I'm just like, you're kind of scraping the barrel getting to like the second and third team. This year's team, as long as they're healthy, has a chance to be one of the best edge rush teams that Notre Dame has had in a very long time, I think.
Yeah, I like Traore. I thought when he went down with the injury, I felt like your guys' defense really missed him from that point forward. Not that they were bad, but it was just different not having him out there.
Well, I think the problem with, so Al Golden, who I think is a great defensive coordinator, did a lot of great things for Notre Dame. I mean, revitalized that unit. Before Al Golden got there the previous like year or two, Notre Dame could not create turnovers, and they were just like inefficient in a lot of different capacities, getting after the quarterback, et cetera. And he really became an attack style team, and he likes to blitz a lot, right? I think that the great thing that Traore would have gave you last year is you didn't have to blitz as much, right? Like I think that was a problem for Notre Dame down the stretch against Ohio State, especially. It's like Will Howard is a pocket quarterback. Like he can run a little bit, but like for the most part, he's a pocket quarterback. He wants to stay in the pocket. Notre Dame wasn't able to affect him as much. Like they weren't able to affect him enough. Like he was too comfortable. And that was because I think that there was too many injuries on the defensive line overall last year. And not to mention Howard Cross was a shell of himself by the end of the year. Like he was gutting it out, but he was like at 50% health. Like he was not playing well. And Riley Mills was out for the latter end of that playoff run as well. So the fact that you had so many injuries on the defensive line last year, you had to rely too much on blitzing. And I think that if Notre Dame is able to get home with 4 a lot more in 2025, then you allow to let your linebackers play a little bit more coverage, and it can become a little bit more of a cohesive unit overall, because I do think that they were a little too blitz happy out of necessity last year.
Well, going back to the secondary, you did a good job earlier kind of running down the safeties, but looking at the cornerbacks, you lose Jordan Clark. What's the outlook for that group in 2025?
I mean, I think they'll be one of the best in college football again. I really do. I know, and Jordan Clark was tremendous, man. Like he did some great things in the nickel for Notre Dame, and he even had to play outside corner against Louisville, and like he did a very good job considering the circumstances he was in. But I do think Devontae Smith coming over from Alabama has played a lot of football, man, like a lot of football. And he's more physically talented than Jordan Clark. Now, Jordan Clark was a just instinctual player. And obviously his dad's Ryan Clark, right? So like he knows ball, right? Like he's always in the right spot. But I really do think that just from a talent perspective, they'll be more athletic in the nickel in 2025 without question. And you have those, I mean, you have an alien playing one corner spot, like Leonard Moore, who made freshman All-American last year. Like he's a legit 6'2.5", 6'3", and can run. Like he's going to be probably a first round pick if he stays healthy and he just continues just a solid progression here from year 1 to year 3 in a couple years. So I think that he's great. The one that I'm really excited to see take a jump potentially is Christian Gray. Now, that kid made some huge plays last year, man. Like you think of the interception against Penn State that got Notre Dame in the field goal range to win that football game. You talk about the pick 6 against USC when they were driving down late in the fourth quarter and the back shoulder ball that he was able to intercept and take to the house. Like he made some huge plays last year. The problem is that Christian Gray also gave up a lot of bad plays last year. Like the USC game is the perfect example. He had a great 4th down pass breakup in the first drive. He had an interception for a touchdown, like a couple of huge plays in that game, but then he just gave up too much. Like a go ball to like Makai Lemon, I think at one point. I think Jacoby Lane out leveraged him for a big play down the field as well. So he is a little bit more volatile, up and down, whatever terminology you want to use. If Christian Gray, it hits his upside, because like the kid's talented, man, and he was a first-year starter, so like hopefully year 2 progression is there. But I mean, that kid was a kid that went to, first of all, you beat Ohio State and LSU for him. Like LSU and Ohio State both wanted him out of the city of St. Louis, and he at the Ohio State camp, going into his junior year, ran 4.39 and 4.41 as a rising junior on the high school level. So like the kid's super talented. He just needs to become consistent now. Consistent in technique. Mike Mickens is a great secondary coach, a great cornerback coach especially, so I think that he'll have that year 2 progression. If he does, and Leonard Moore is just what he was last year, if not a little bit better because he'll be a sophomore, I think that Notre Dame has a chance to have the best corner duo in college football, which, man, I don't know when I could ever say that. I mean, and not in my lifetime. I mean, that's probably like a late 80s, early 90s type of conversation when Notre Dame used to having tremendous cornerback play like Todd Light and those dudes back in the day. They haven't had those. Like they've had a couple of good ones, like, Julian Love and Troy Pride was a good one in like the late 2010s, but like they have never had a duo that you could legitimately say, I would not trade any pair of college football for that too. And I think they could have that in 2025 if Christian Gray takes a step forward.
You kind of mentioned him a minute ago, but last season we got to see exciting freshman Kingston Bialamu also play in 14 games.
Yep.
What are the expectations for him this year in 25?
Man, I'm so excited about Kingston. I think that he's the ultimate wild card on the team, and not wild card in like a negative of like he won't contribute. Like he's going to be a heavy part of the rotation. But if Kingston takes a step, and he did a lot of great things as a freshman in limited opportunities, if he takes a step, he is the ultimate like movable chess piece for Notre Dame. Because if you watched him last year, and you could even watch like the Indiana game for one, there were reps where they're putting him on the edge to rush the passer in obvious passing situations. He's playing Will, he's playing Mike, like he's playing all over the place, and he's a different body type than they have in that room. Like he's 6'3", he's 240 pounds, and he can do a lot of different things for a defense. So if Kingston is the best version of himself for what a sophomore can be in the Notre Dame defense, I think that you're going to see him everywhere. Like 27 is going to flash all over the place. He's going to have tackles for loss. He's going to make some plays of coverage. He had a interception last year. But if he takes a step forward, then I think that you're going to see him as kind of a weapon that hopefully Chris Ash can kind of lean on this season.
If you had to pick a defensive player to have a breakout type season here in 2025, who would that be? And it could be someone we already talked about or someone we haven't talked about.
Sure. Man, it's a great question. I mean, technically Boubacar could still have a breakout season, right? Because we only saw him in like 4.5 football games. So it's like he would probably be the guy. I think he's probably the most important guy to be a quote unquote breakout. But if I had to pick another guy that I think would take the defense to another level, it's Jadon Blair, who's a true freshman safety. He's the guy that I was talking about that's like a legit 6'5". That dude,
Yeah.
he's so athletic, guys. I'll put it in the context. He was here for bowl practice because he was an early enrollee. He was like the early enrollees, like those guys that you can even get on a little bit earlier.
Right.
So he's practicing with them for like the Indiana game and all the way through the playoffs. He is such a good athlete. And if you pop on his Mount Tabor film, like it's pretty jaw dropping. He's such a good athlete, though. He was playing scout team wide receiver for Notre Dame in the playoffs because they were just like throwing him jump balls, right? Like he's like that type of dude where it's just like, all right, he can pretty much do whatever the heck he wants on a football field. So if he is ready, and I think he will be because he was great in the spring, but if he is ready to be a de facto starter or a guy that at least split reps at safety, I think that he could have a similar impact to what we saw Kyle Hamilton when he was a true freshman. Now, Kyle played with Alohi Gilman and Jalen Elliott, right? So like they had a really good safety unit, but Kyle Hamilton was so good. He led the team in interceptions that year as a third safety. And I think that you could start seeing some third safety stuff with their defense a little bit if Jadon Blair is as good as I think he can be.
Wow, that's high praise because Hamilton was everywhere. He was everywhere on the field, guys.
Yeah, well,
He still is. I mean,
it's hilarious because Jadon, the Blair family actually knows the Hamilton family really well. Like they're family friends, and it's hilarious because you look at him and you're just like, when's the last time we had a 6'4" safety from the Southeast come up to South Bend and make an impact, right? And it's like, I think it's happening again, hopefully,
Wow. Are there any younger guys or freshmen we haven't already talked about that you think will make an impact on this defense in 2025?
The only one, so it's a great question because Notre Dame has a really good defensive class coming in the 2025 group, but Notre Dame just doesn't have a lot of holes on defense. Like they really do have a pretty veteran team coming back. I know they lost Xavier and Ben Morrison and Jack Kaiser and the interior guys that we talked about, but like they have a lot of dudes coming back, man. They really do. So outside of Jadon, I don't think there's any freshman that's like, that guy is definitely going to play in some capacity in 2025. But I do think one guy to kind of keep a close eye on if he is ready to is Dallas Golden, who's going to be a true freshman this year out of the state of Florida. He went to Berkeley Prep in Florida, which has put out a lot of great players like Nicholas Petit-Frere and Keon Keeley came out of there a couple years ago that was committed to Notre Dame that eventually flipped to Alabama. This kid is 6'1", probably going to be 185 pounds as a true freshman. But if you pop on his film, if you just want a good time, like he could legitimately play at Notre Dame at like 4 different positions if he wants to. Like he could play safety, he could play corner, he could play nickel, and he could play wide receiver if he wanted to. Like he's that type of athlete. Tremendous dude. And I think that he is going to get a chance, at least in theory, to fight for some reps at nickel in 2025. Because like Devontae Smith is going to be the starting nickel. Like we know that for a fact, but
right.
You're not going to play 100% of the snaps, right? So like, is there a reality where a Dallas Golden can come in and play 25% of the snaps, 30% of snaps? If he doesn't play any defense, I still think that he could play special teams. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas Golden's like your number 1 kick returner in 2025 either. Like he's that type of athlete overall, but I think defensively, that's like the other guy I have a close eye on. You could talk about like Christopher Burgess, maybe in the edge room as far as like getting some like small playing time and stuff. But as far as guys that have like substantial upside to play a lot, I think it's Jadon Blair. And then I think second down is probably a Dallas Golden or maybe a Mark Zachary inside at the nickel.
Is there a 2026 Notre Dame recruit or commit that you're on the defensive side that you're just really excited about?
Man, there's a lot of them, man. They're loading up defensively. I mean, I think it starts with Rodney Dunham, the pass rusher out of North Carolina, right? Like he's the 5-star. He's the number 1 player in Notre Dame's class right now. I mean, he's honestly the whole edge group that Notre Dame has so far. Like they have 2 commits with Rodney Dunham and then Ebenezer Ebutade, who's out of North Carolina as well. Like they're both just freaky athletes, man. Like super athletic. I think that both of them have high upside. Other than that, I mean, like I like Tiki Hola, the interior defensive lineman that they have out of the state of Texas. He's kind of what you need more of, like big physical interior run defenders. And I think that he has a lot of upside. And if you want to feel old, and Notre Dame is making me feel so old recently, because like I said, they have Bryant Young's son. Now they have Elijah Burris, who's Plexico Burris' son. They have Jerome Bettis Jr. on the team. Like you're starting to feel really old in Notre Dame lands. Well, they have Thomas Davis Jr. that is committed in the class as well, the linebacker. So it's yeah, man, he's a really talented kid. He's out of the state of North Carolina. Notre Dame is killing North Carolina in 2025. Like they have Dunham, who's the 5-star. They have Ebutade, who's a super high upside pass rusher. And then they have Thomas Davis Jr. And they still have a couple guys on the board that they like from the state of North Carolina as well. So I guess you could just go to North Carolina if you want to talk about Notre Dame defenders in 2026.
Well, I think like the state of North Carolina kind of gets overlooked in football recruiting because naturally you got Texas and Florida and Georgia. You've even got New Jersey, California. But you were talking about Notre Dame being a presence in North Carolina. Tennessee is too. And when Tennessee was good back in the Fulmer era, they were hammering North Carolina. Right? They were getting a lot of high recruits. So I feel like North Carolina is, on a recruiting standpoint, is very underrated area.
I agree. And a couple of guys I mentioned already, Jadon Blair's from North Carolina as well. Bryce Young's from North Carolina. So like Notre Dame is tapping into North Carolina a lot because you have to think of like some of these states, like they're unclaimed, right? For lack of a better word,
right.
Like UNC, NC States, they're not bad programs, but like, you know, the 5-stars and high caliber 4-stars don't necessarily want to stay at home and play for the Wolfpack, all due respect, right? Like they want to go and play at some of these
right.
Blue Bloods or some of these high leverage teams that play in like these big capacities and these big stadiums and these big opportunities and all those types of things. So I think North Carolina is a big one. Notre Dame also did the same thing in St. Louis a couple years ago because again, it's like Missouri is a good program, but like, you know, you can get kids out of the state of Missouri. Like you just can, right? So like Jeremiah Love's from Missouri, Christian Gray's from Missouri, Aeneas Williams, who's a sophomore running back, is out of Missouri. So I think Notre Dame's done a really good job because they're focusing on Texas. They're focusing on North Carolina. They're focusing on Florida, like the places that we know develop talent at a high level, but they're starting to get some of those states that are kind of unclaimed at this point, right? The North Carolinas, the St. Louis, like they city of St. Louis, like those types of places, I think have been really good to Notre Dame the last couple of years. I think it's really strategically a smart decision by Coach Freeman and his staff to really tap into those pipelines that don't have like a major blue blood program in them.
Right. You were talking about Jalen Sneed being more of a inside middle linebacker for you guys. Kind of felt like when he came out of high school, he was kind of more of that edge player. Is the move for him to the inside, is that more due to what he can do best, or was it because you guys are kind of heavy and deep at edge, so the move to linebacker made more sense? Because I always felt like he was an edge guy.
Yeah, so Jalen, another Carolina guy, he's a South Carolina guy, just kind of off our conversation there. Jalen Sneed, he's played off the edge in some like obvious pass rush situations as like a stand-up outside linebacker, but he has mostly been a rover in Notre Dame's 4-2-5 defense over the last couple years. I think for me, why is Jalen Sneed, like he was playing like 220 something last year, like 220, 221, somewhere in that ballpark. He's up about 15 pounds. Why is that? In my opinion, I don't know this for a fact. I haven't talked to Jalen Sneed about this, obviously, but like, I think it's because he wants to play in the NFL, right? And like a 220-pound rover, that is not super translatable to the NFL. Like the NFL was playing, I mean, I think there was one football team over the last 2 years that has played base defense over 50% of the time. Like you're a nickel dime all the time in the NFL. So like that overhang linebacker, like that guy just doesn't matter as much anymore. Like he doesn't. The time of these Sam linebackers playing 70% of the snaps, like they're gone, man. Like they just are. So I think for Jalen, he's trying to figure out what is best for my long-term football future. And I think it's playing inside linebacker. Like he is probably 6'1" at most. Like he has decent length, but like he just doesn't have a body type that's like, that's a full-time edge rusher on the NFL level. I think that he's trying to find a home, and I think inside linebacker is that potential best term for his future.
Awesome. We've talked about it the last few weeks, me and Justice has with some people. This whole transfer portal two-window thing.
Yep.
I had watched something from Hugh Freeze, and he said, which, like I said, I don't put a lot of stock into what Hugh Freeze says, but he made some sense. He's like, why don't we move the portal back to one and move that one portal to like later in the year, like early August or, whatever. Because his thing was, you've got, especially like Notre Dame, you're making a deep playoff run. When the season's over, you've got kids that are hurt. They're trying to rehab. You're bringing in players in, and then you got a spring game, and then they're transferring out again.
Yep.
do you see it them sticking with two portal windows, or do you think it gets moved to one? And if so, do they move that window? I mean, what do you think the best answer?
I mean, the window period at the tail end of the season stinks. Like it's horrible. Like it
Yeah,
really is. I mean, we're talking about teams that are in the playoffs that are losing players to the portal because you know why? Because they have to. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's the window. Like they want to maximize their window, and ultimately the winter portal is going to be better for the player than the spring, right? Like because that's where a lot of the mass movement happens, and so it makes things super cloudy, right? I think overall, like the bigger problem, in my opinion, is the NIL landscape more than the portal
Yeah,
situation right now, to be honest with you. Because what's happening is, you know, the NCAA and, you know, we can have a long conversation with the NCAA if you want, but the NCAA is like, hey, all you guys can make money. And everyone's like, cool, that's awesome. Because I think most people are pro player. They're like, hey, man, they probably should be making some money.
right.
Cool, whatever. But the problem is that you said they can make money and then you didn't put any stipulations or regulations on how someone can make money. And you threw everything under NIL as far as like, we know there's a difference between profiting off of your name, image, likeness and getting a pay for play. Like it is a very different thing, but unfortunately you
Yeah,
put everything under the same umbrella. So what happens, guys? What happens, right? Oh, teams are now reaching out to me. It's now legal. And I enter the portal because I'm getting a bigger payday and this mass movement is happening so much. And then also you don't have the 1 year sit rule that you used to have with transferring. So players are just moving wherever they want. Like they can just move countless times. I mean, we had to deal with like Bear Alexander situations, right? Where he's just transferring
Yeah.
everywhere and he's threatening to transfer every offseason. And that's what's really hurting the transfer portal. Because I think the transfer portal in theory is good. Like I don't mind the
right.
transfer portal. I think that it is good for a player to have a second chance when he made a bad decision. I think it's better for them to have another opportunity when a coach leaves and like all that type of stuff. Like I think it's good practically. The problem is that when you mesh transfer portal with NIL that has no regulations behind it and has no proper definition, that's what makes guys just want to up and leave. And now it's like this has always happens. Like players have been getting paid from the dawn of time. Like this has always happened. The problem is that it's too
Right.
transparent now for some people and it's too allowable. Like there's like just no harsh punishments that you're going to be able to get on people because you just have made no regulations for anything. So I think before they fix the portal windows, they need to fix the NIL system, man. Like I think that's mostly what needs to happen. Like there needs to be a defines what you can do, what you can't do, and then we'll figure out the transfer portal stuff because until you fix that part of why guys keep getting tampered with and getting offered a lot more money, I just think that you're just kind of fighting a battle. Like it's almost like you're hitting against your head against the wall, I think countlessly unless you
Right.
fix that part of it.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
like
I agree that.
it's not going to be fixed to me until they are employees of the university or a union or something, and there's a collective bargaining agreement. Because until you
Agreed.
get to that point, everything's going to be a violation of antitrust rules, and so like everything's going to be in favor of the player.
Yeah. Well, it's going to happen at some point. I've had this debate over the last few years. Like I do think that employment is going to be a thing at some point. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people haven't talked about. Being an employee is not fun sometimes, right? Like it's not
Right.
because
Well,
you know what happens with
there's different expectations.
yeah, different
Right.
expectations. And what else can happen besides being an employee? You can get fired,
Get
man.
fired.
Like things could happen,
Yeah.
right? And I think when these players start getting taxed at a higher level, a lot of them, right? And they start to be in the employment phase where like they can get released at any time because they're not meeting their end of the bargain from an expectation perspective. Things are going to get they're going to get worse for the player, but also at least you're standardizing something to kind of fix something, right? Like there's going to be a fix that happens. I just don't exactly know what it is, man. Like I feel like people are just kind of like obviously the court stuff is happening already and like we're trying to figure out some of the stuff on like the legislative side and all that type of stuff, but really, man, it's like the NCAA just was not accountable for anything, and they've created this Wild West and this crazy landscape that like people just don't really know the fix for because, again, they just did a bunch of different things at one time, and we're just like, okay, guys, go ahead. It's like, okay, we can do whatever we want now. Cool, all right, let's go do whatever we want now, and everyone's shocked when the landscape is now imploding, right? Where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
things are just not right. So I agree with you though. I think employment is going to be a thing. But I do think that when players start to hit that employment phase, like there's gonna be a lot of things where they're like, oh, this isn't this isn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. Like, this isn't as much fun.
Yeah. I've kind of heard the mention of like contracts as well. Like, you know, if we're going to pay you to play, or however you want to phrase it, we'll give you, I don't know, we'll give you $5 million to play for 2 years. Now,
Yep.
if you transfer out or you leave to go to another school, whatever you want to do, if you've not fulfilled your obligation, then hey, maybe you owe us some money back because you didn't fulfill your end of. So I've kind of heard that. But the whole Nico thing, I mean,
Yes.
a lot of people think that it just happened like in the spring, kind of recently, and it didn't.
No.
This was going back into the
winter part.
latter part of the year. Yeah, I mean, this was, and I don't know where he was getting his. I don't know if it was his dad or if it was other people.
Yep.
But man, for Nico, he better hope this pays off because he took less money and went to a state that taxes a lot more.
Yes. Yeah. It's a crazy situation. We did a deep piece on this at A to Z Sports when like all this stuff was happening, and I mean you're right. This was not a spring demands portal only type of thing. Like he was making demands all the way back before the winter portal opens, and then you know they met some of it, they didn't meet all of it, and then he kind of just went in limbo for a little while. But yeah, I mean it's a lot of here's the problem with a lot of these things, and I was in the recruiting space, so like there's great parents, there's good parents, and there's really bad parents, right? And some of them are out for the right things. The best interest of their son would be one. Some of them are not out for the right things. I've met a lot of parents that I would, you know, for lack of a better word, I would call money grabs. Like they just are, right? Like that's all they care about is using their son for a payday. Like that's all they care about. The problem is that not only do you have that, which you've always had, by the way, like you've always had those parental issues. Always. Your support system matters so much. But now, what is also involved with this, because you mentioned contracts. There's contracts all over the place now. What does that mean? There's agents all over the place too, right? And,
and they're unregulated.
Yes. And when you start, exactly. I mean, like literally there's NIL agents now in high school. Like these guys are representing kids from when they're like 16, 17 years old. Like it happens, right? And like I just said with parents, you know what there's also? There's good agents. There's really bad agents. Like there is, right? So when you start mixing bad parenting, bad counsel with bad agents that only have the green intentions behind them, that's when this turns really bad really fast. And I actually feel a little bit bad for Nico, to be honest. Like at the end of the day, he's a grown man. He needs to make his own decisions. I agree on that 100%. But like he's also a young guy that was getting told a whole lot of bad information and a whole lot of bad support and a lot of bad advice. Like he did not have a good support system behind him. It's very unfortunate, but I do think that is just another example of you need to put good people around yourself, or else you're going to be manipulated and you're probably going to end up in some bad situations, like playing for a pretty bad UCLA roster in 2025, in my opinion, like pretty rough roster.
Yeah.
Right. I know a lot of coaches and athletic directors probably won't admit it publicly, but man, they were super behind Danny White and Josh Heupel when they said, you know what, we're done. We're taking a stand. We're not doing this. Kind of reminds me of the line in Moneyball where Brad Pitt goes to the Red Sox and he's like, you know, when you're the first one through the door, you always get one, right? And I kind of feel like that's what's happening to Danny White and Josh Heupel. But you know, deep down, the rest of the athletic directors and head coaches are like, yes, we support this. Yes.
I give a lot of credit to Danny White, especially because, I mean, like Coach Heupel, you're in such a tough spot, right? Because it's like he's your starting quarterback and he's a really talented kid, obviously, too, right? Like, and it's tough when you're, you know, like the demand and the market and your starting quarterback and like all those things are mixed. It's hard. But Danny White, to my knowledge, from what I was told at the end, was just kind of like, we're done here. Like this is over. Like there's no going back at this point. And good. Like the Nico side of this should not have had all the leverage. And eventually Tennessee was just like, we're good. Like we'll cut our losses here. Yes, we're probably not gonna be as talented at the position in 2025 as we could have been, but ultimately we're not going to be held ransom by a kid that still needs to play. Here's the thing about Nico
Right.
that a lot of people, and I'm sure you guys know this, following the team a little bit closer than I do even. Like, Nico's talented, but he wasn't very good last year either, right? Like he
Joey
wasn't good
Aguilar
enough.
might put up similar numbers, if not better numbers, right?
Exactly. And in that offense too, man, it's like, I know the offensive line was not good last year for Tennessee. Like there's a lot of upgrades that need to happen there. But like Nico started the year off hot, and then he fizzled, and he was just kind of blah by the end of the season. Like he wasn't great, right? Yeah. And he's in an offense that is incredibly quarterback friendly, man. Like we've seen what Hendon Hooker and even Joe Milton to a degree have done in that offense and been more productive than what Nico was last year. And I would have liked to see him in year 2 under Coach Heupel, because I do think he could have been a good player in that system. But ultimately, like, you were not good enough last year to hold a team ransom. Like you weren't. And I don't think it was it's not a coincidence that when you did enter the portal and you said your market, that UCLA was one of the very few suitors that came forward for you, because I just don't think there was as big a demand either. Like they misplayed their hand. The dad, the agent, like they misplayed their hands. The demand was not as high as what they thought it was going to be. And they left a pretty good situation. Like if I was a quarterback, I would love playing for Josh Heupel. Like I would love it. I think that is a very good system to be in, for at least for a college quarterback centric perspective. Now you have to go to UCLA, which, we'll see if Deshaun Foster can turn it around, I guess. But like, I mean, I was looking at the roster like a few weeks ago, and it's just like, man, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know if you have any potential there, man. Like that's a depleted roster right now. It's not good.
Yeah, I hate it for Nico too. I'm like you. I think he just got the wrong information and whatever. But man, I feel like it's going to be worldwide or college football wide, right? And even high school. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him this year and how this plays out. And if this goes badly, I think a lot of kids are going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take less money. And but if it works out, it could go the other way, right?
Yeah, it's probably wrong of me to want this, but like I kind of hope it doesn't work out that well, because I do kind of want that standard to be put in place, to be honest with you. Like I think it's good for the game just overall if like there's some boundaries that are set. Like I'm a parent, right? And it's just like, these are the expectations, right? Like this is the expectations. You do this, you get rewarded for certain things. You don't do this, you get a punishment for certain things, right? And like, I just think that there's no boundaries on a lot of different things in college football right now, and lack of boundaries lead to blurred lines, and it leads to people manipulating others ultimately, right? Like if I one time to my daughter was like, it's okay, babe, you can have a cookie, even though you're not supposed to have a cookie, then you know what she does the next time? She tries taking advantage of it, and she asks for another cookie, right? Or she doesn't even ask, and she takes it out of the cookie jar. Like you have to set those standards and those boundaries, or else things fall apart. And I think it's the same in college football right now.
Sure.
Right. Being a big Notre Dame fan that you are, and with the landscape of how college football's kind of developing into the big 2 super conferences. We went from Power 5 to Power 4 because of the loss of the Pac-12. With the expanded playoffs, that's even going to expand even more. That's going to 16 teams. That's just going to happen. It's just figuring out how it does. My question is, with all these changes, does Notre Dame stay independent in football, or do they finally have to, I won't say have to, do they finally feel they need to join a conference? And I would assume that's the Big Ten if they were to do maybe the ACC, but because of basketball. But I would think it would be the Big Ten, right?
Well, so it's funny enough is historically Notre Dame has tried to join the Big Ten a couple times, and they've been blocked out of joining the Big Ten. Like that's happened. Like that's why Notre Dame and Michigan hate each other, because Michigan has literally blocked Notre Dame in the past of like entering the Big Ten. And I think eventually Notre Dame was like, okay, we're just never going to be in the Big Ten. Like we don't want to be, because like that's the most natural one, right? From like a regionality perspective. I know regions don't matter as much now that we have like Cal and Stanford in the ACC. Like it doesn't matter anymore. It's like the Coast Conference, not the Atlantic Coast Conference anymore. Like it's so bizarre. But I do think like they have the ACC tie-in, obviously, because there are other sports being involved in the ACC, so they naturally have the alignment there. But I think that Notre Dame is going to stay independent as long as they possibly can. Like I just think that's what they're going to do, because like for me, Notre Dame is such a unique place, and it needs to be unique, because all due respect to South Bend, Indiana, not a lot of people just want to come and play at South Bend, Indiana, right? Like Notre Dame also has a lot of academic restrictions like that they have to try to get around for some players. So they're a national brand, right? Like they want to be able to, from a national perspective, scheduling wise, they want to be able to play different opponents. They want to play in different locations. They want to go out to California the last game of the year for that USC, even though that is trending downward too, as far as like that rivalry. And they want to have a little bit of control over like national exposure for recruiting as well. Like they want the players to know that they're going to play in Texas, they're going to play in California, they're going to play all over the place. So I think it helps for them from a just attractiveness perspective, but also, and there's a little bit of superiority complex here. Like there admittedly is, but Notre Dame is a huge brand, obviously. Right. And when the time comes that they have to join a conference, you know what they're going to do? It's going to be a bidding war for Notre Dame, whether people want to admit that to themselves or not. The SEC is going to be interested in Notre Dame. The Big Ten is going to be interested in Notre Dame. The ACC is going to be interested in Notre Dame. They're all going to be interested in Notre Dame because Notre Dame makes a lot of money. And, that means that they will also make a lot of money because of Notre Dame. Like it's all about money at the end of the day. So I actually think that Notre Dame is going to stay independent as long as possible. And I think it's the smartest thing to do too right now, because one, the longer that you stay independent and you have that bidding war eventually, the more money you're going to make in the end, because that's how markets work, right? Like markets go up usually, unless you're, I guess the stock market crashes sometimes, but like college football is not going to crash, right? Like it's just not going to crash. It's going to keep trending upwards. So you're going to be more valuable 10 years from now than you are today. Like you just are overall. And then the other thing I think that people don't talk about enough is that while we think we know where we're going, right? The Big Ten and the SEC, the super conferences, and then, the playoff keeps expanding until someone's finally like, all right, this isn't the NCAA tournament. Like, let's chill out. We don't need a round of 64 here. But with that in mind, things can change so quickly in the college football landscape. I don't think doing something now is smart for Notre Dame because something could change tomorrow in an instant. So I think we kind of just want to see what happens next. Like I'm curious to see what happens next. And I have my opinions on what I think is going to happen because I agree with you. Like it's going to be 16 before too long. And I do think that super conferences are eventually going to roll out, but who knows, maybe something happens and there's a major shift and things change quickly. So I think Notre Dame's staying patient to see how the landscape kind of plays out. And then also lets things play out because they become more valuable tomorrow comparative to today. I think both of those things are going to lead them to staying independent as long as possible.
Awesome. Justice, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I would just say I feel like the tipping point or that decision point will come when the SEC and the Big Ten say we're done with the rest of the year. We're doing our own thing.
Yeah. Well, when they finally say like, "Oh, the NCAA sucks, we're out of here," right? Like, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, I kind of hate that if it happens, and it looks like we're trending that way, right? Because I think once the Big Ten and SEC says we're done, what happens to your group of six? Your smaller school, because I feel like they you can say whether they deserve it or not. Yeah, but I heard it mentioned. Well, if the SEC and the Big Ten says we're done, we're doing our own thing, are they going to allow these other smaller conferences a seat at the table for a national championship? Because the thing is, we'll just play 8 SEC teams and 8 Big Ten teams, and we'll crown a national champion that way. Well, if you're doing that,
that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
when they leave, it's going to be them.
Yeah, I understand and I get it. I just hate it because I know that it's going to leave what opportunities the little guys have now. Those are going to be completely gone.
It's going to be fascinating too because to the points, if that does happen, and I agree that that's probably where it's trending. I agree 100%. What I think is going to happen is some of those smaller conferences are going to try to band together and try to fight back, right? And I don't know how that's going to go for them. Like I honestly don't. Like it's going to be interesting as far as just like how, because structurally speaking, I think it's smart if the Big Ten and the SEC, because like at the end of the day, I am very anti NCAA. Like I am, right? So like I think that is smart for the SEC and Big Ten to go that way because, I mean, why do you have commissioners, right? Like you want to govern yourself and ultimately you want to kind of control your destiny a little bit better as like a conference overall and not have to be under the umbrella of NCAA when they don't actually do anything, right? Like that's kind of the fight back. But I'm really interested to see what happens to those smaller conferences because I mean I don't know, man. So much is going to change. Like the ACC right now is
Yeah.
taking pretty much everyone because they're trying to last as long as possible, but like that's probably not going to end up well either. Like
No,
it's
it's
structurally
not.
just going to be very imbalanced, man. Like it's going to be so weird to watch.
I do think you're seeing like the Big 12 kind of realize it to a certain extent. Like it feels like up until recently, like everyone was trying to placate the Big 10 and the SEC,
Mhm.
and now
Yep.
it feels like the Big 12 is kind of starting to realize, hey, it don't matter what we do, like we're screwed. We better like just it'd be better just to rip the Band-Aid off now. Screw you. We're gonna vote with these other guys, you know. But no, I know we need to let you go, Ryan. But yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
feels like to me.
It's a mess, dude. It's a mess. I mean, we don't have Pac-12 after dark because of all this stuff right now, right? Like it's so sad. It
kills
the
me.
world of
I
college football.
love that.
So, yeah. Well, and the last year was the best year too, man. There were so many good teams that
Yeah.
year, you know, and then all of a sudden you're just like, and it's gone. It's never coming back,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So it sucks. It sucks.
Well, thanks, man, for joining us, taking the time out to do this. Appreciate it so much. You're welcome back anytime you want to come back. Just reach out to me or Justice, and we'll make it happen. If you're not following Ryan, follow him at Rise and Draft. Go to A to Z Sports. He's everywhere. I've been following him since he was. I got on Twitter and I looked up one day and I saw he was on A to Z Sports, and I was like, "Wow! I didn't even realize you'd made the move there." So, yeah, check him out. There's a draft year. I'm tuned in to you. When draft season's here, I'm all into your stuff, man. You do great work. So, go check him out. Thanks for joining us, and good luck to your Irish. And we'll talk again.
Yeah, man. No, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the kind words and everything. And this was a lot of fun. I thought I was going to be on here for like 30 minutes. And I looked up and it was an hour. So that's when you know a podcast is good right there, because the conversation just flows so fast. You know what I mean? So appreciate you guys.
Well, sorry we kept you so long, but yeah, it was a blast. Thanks.